What if I told you that every diesel engine, no matter how big or small, runs on the exact same four-step process? Have you ever wondered what's actually happening inside the engine while the engine is running? Why can a diesel engine make so much torque without using spark plugs? Today we're breaking down the four-stroke diesel cycle, the foundation of heavy-duty diesel engines. By the end of this video, you should be able to picture what the piston, valves, and fuel injectors are doing at every moment. A four-stroke diesel engine completes one full cycle using four piston strokes. Each stroke is one movement of the piston, either up or down inside the cylinder. Quick question to think about. If the piston moves four times, how many times does the crankshaft rotate? The answer is two full rotations of the crankshaft. But why wouldn't the engine make power on every single stroke? Understanding this question will help you understand engine design, efficiency, and torque. But before we answer that, let's dive into the first of the four strokes, which is the intake stroke. The piston moves downward while the intake valves open. Camshaft controls when the intake valve opens. I've created a separate video on the camshaft, which I'll link below if you're interested after watching this video. But at this time, only air enters the cylinder, no fuel yet. But why doesn't diesel fuel enter during the intake stroke? Well, if the fuel entered too early, there wouldn't be any pressure or compression built up in the cylinder yet, and since there's no spark plug like in a gasoline engine, the fuel wouldn't ignite. But would a clogged air filter affect this stroke? Well, absolutely, because less air means less oxygen, which means less power, no matter how good the fuel system is. So once the piston has reached the bottom of its stroke, it's now time for the intake stroke to end and move into the second stroke, the compression stroke. Both intake and exhaust valves are closed, and the piston compresses the air which entered during the intake stroke into a very small space. As this air is compressed, it gets extremely hot. Now, why does squeezing air make it hotter? Without getting really technical, it's because the air's pressure and temperature increase as the volume of the space decreases. Now, why do diesel engines need such high compression ratios? Well, diesels can run compression ratios up to 25 to 1. This means that at the bottom of the intake stroke, all that air gets squeezed down into a space that is 25 times smaller. This high compression, it ultimately is what allows the fuel to ignite, which we'll get to shortly in stroke number 3. Now, what symptoms would you expect from having low compression? Hard starting, white smoke, low power, poor fuel economy, excessive blow-by, where the combustion pressure leaks past the piston rings and escapes into the crankcase. Nothing good, essentially. This stroke is where many common diesel problems arise from, and it can be caused by scored cylinders or broken piston rings, valve issues, head gasket failures, among other things. But for now, let's assume the cylinder compression is good, the valves are still closed, and the piston is on its way up. The air is compressed heavily, and as it nears TDC, or top dead center of its travel, we enter into stroke number 3, the power stroke. Near the top of the compression stroke, fuel is injected directly into the hot air. The fuel ignites automatically, no spark needed. Combustion begins. Now, can we just lazily pour diesel fuel in there? Of course not. The fuel has to be finely atomized to mix properly with all of that air, and it also needs to overcome the pressure buildup inside the cylinder from the compression stroke. Fuel injection pressures in modern diesels can be 30,000 psi, more than enough to overcome that cylinder pressure. Now, this controlled explosion forces the piston downward, which creates the power stroke. So is injector timing critical in a diesel engine? Well, absolutely, because a few degrees too early or too late can cause knocking, smoke, or engine damage. Now, this brings us to stroke number 4, the exhaust stroke. After combustion, the cylinder is full of leftover burnt gases that need to get out of there before the next intake stroke starts. As the piston is moving upward, the exhaust valve will open and exhaust will exit the cylinder. It's important to fully clear the cylinder before the next intake stroke to allow that clean, cool air to mix with the injected fuel during the power stroke. But as this exhaust air leaves the cylinder and heads out towards the exhaust manifold, the turbocharger or turbochargers will use this exhaust energy to compress the clean intake air for the next intake stroke. But we'll leave turbochargers for another lesson. So let's connect the dots of these four strokes. During the intake stroke, air enters. In compression, air heats up. During power stroke, fuel ignites. In the exhaust stroke, the gases exit. With this information, you can start thinking about engine problems that affect each stroke. Intake leaks, clogged air filters, fuel restrictions are a few examples that all have to be working properly. And if you've ever wondered how a diesel works from the air coming into the engine to the exhaust going out, watch this video next to find out how.